You guys said it was a good idea to make some HUDs, so let's make one. Alright, I have DaVinci Resolve fired up here. I'm just going to go right over into Fusion. Once we're in Fusion, we're going to open up the media pool. So right up here, we're going to open this up, right click in here, and go to New Fusion Comp. Now, if you do not see this, all you have to do is update your DaVinci Resolve. I believe it was added in 15.1, if I'm not mistaken, and as of recording, we're at 15.2. So once it's up here, we're gonna double click on it, and then it'll open up, and you know it's opened up when you see a node down here, so we'll just pop that over there. First thing we're gonna do is just pull down a background, and we're gonna pull down an ellipse tool, and we're gonna copy that, or copy. We're going to connect that over, and then we want to view this background, so we're just going to drag it up to a viewer and then release it, and then it'll view over here. And for now we're just going to work in one viewer because we're going to do everything 2D to start with. So I'm just going to click this button so we have more real estate, and then we're going to click on our mask, and we can move one of these around, but it'd be a pain in the butt to get these to line up. So the easiest way to do this is just to right click on one of the two. It doesn't matter which one. I'm just going to do the width. Click on expression, and then we're going to copy. We're going to click right in here to get this like little, in other programs called pig width, but we're just going to bring it down here. Click on height, and then we're going to get height in here. Once that's in here, what this is saying is that the value for this particular one is going to be the value of height. So it's going to look in height, and it's going to see that, okay, this over here is the value, and it'll just duplicate it, so then we always have a perfect circle. So it's the easiest way to manipulate this to keep it as a perfect circle. So once we have this done, we're going to highlight our mask, Control C, Control V to paste it, and then we just have to have this connected up. And then the one that's the second, so we have one mask, and then we have the second mask, the second one, it's going to have paint modes, and we're just going to change this to subtract. Once it's subtract, obviously you won't see anything, but we want to see a little bit of a line. So we're gonna click on our second mask here, and then this border width, we're just gonna move just so slightly to get a little line. Now we have a nice line. And this is kind of the process that we're going to be doing for a lot of these different elements that are going to bring together this HUD. So you're going to notice that this is going to be quite repetitive in nature. So the next one that we're going to do is we're going to add little circles to go all the way around. So I'm going to bring down another background, and I'm going to bring down another ellipse, connect it up, and now I want to be able to see it with this one. So we're going to go from the background, the first background node, and we're going to connect it to the output of the second background node, and we'll get a merge, and then we just view the merge, so we'll just drag it up here and release. The other way that you can do this is because this is viewer 2, you can just hit number 2 and it'll view that one, or click on this one, view 2, so number 2, and this is just number 1 and number 2 because we have this open. This one's number 2. Okay, so for this second one, I'm going to do the same exact thing with the expression, and then we're going to make these really small. So now it's really small to the point where it's either like that or nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on this. So I'm going to hold down Control and mouse wheel in to zoom in. And then over here for this slider, I'm going to hold Control and move it around. We're gonna have fine-tune controls, or fine-tune, whatever. We have the ability to adjust it very finely when we're holding down Control, more precise. So we're gonna zoom out by holding Control again. I'm actually gonna come up here and click Fit, so we have it in here. That's still too big, so I'm gonna come back, make it smaller, and that is probably still too big, but for now, we'll just leave it. And I'm going to bring it up here. And I don't want them to touch, so they're not touching, which is fine. I'm going to just take both of these, highlight them, drag them over just a little bit so I have a little room here. Click on this background, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and then hit spacebar, and it's going to bring up this tool where I can search things, and I'm just going to search duplicate, So we get the duplicate tool. And now I'm going to duplicate just this one little thing that's being fed into here. So if we just view this, it's just this one little dot, okay, that's being fed into the duplicate tool. So now we can duplicate just that one little dot. So I'm on the duplicate tool, I'm over here. How many copies do I want? Let's see what 15 copies looks like. Okay, I do that, you obviously don't see anything. It's because there's 15 copies all in the same position. So now we have to use some of these other parameters to change that position. So we could take this a line and change the angle. And as you can see, this would be a pain in the ass to get everything aligned up correctly, because what's happening is in between each one of the pieces, it's changing it by 31 degrees, and we don't, that's really difficult. The easiest way to do this is in these little guys where you can write stuff in, you can put calculations. So this is obviously a circle, so we have 360 degrees, and we're gonna divide that by how many pieces do we have? We have 15. So we have the calculation in there, and we just hit enter, and it comes up with 24. Now they're all perfectly aligned. Done. Easy as that. Now we can just move on to the next item that we're going to add to this. Another background, and ellipse, copy it, and we're gonna connect this down to here, and then view it. And then this little guy, going to do the same exact thing, copy this, drag this down, holding Control to get those fine adjustments. Control C, Control V, it automatically connected it for me, which is great. Same thing, subtract, nice little line, perfect. For this line, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up so that there's a whole bunch of like little chunks, so it looks like it's spinning as a bunch of pieces. So to do that, I'm going to take both of these and move them over just a little bit. I'm going to grab a rectangle, and I'm just going to connect that. And how I did that, if I did it too quick for people that aren't familiar with this, as long as you grab the far side of one of these connection lines, you can grab it and move it to something else. So now that we have it over here, I'm gonna go subtract, then we're gonna go to invert, so it's only on the inside of this box. And then we're gonna change the height to make it a small little piece, so something like that. And I'm just gonna bring the width down and bring it right over here. So now I have a little piece. After the background node, I'm gonna do the same thing, duplicate, and maybe do 6. 360, 6. Perfect. Now I have all my little pieces, and we just keep adding to it. Another background, circle, connect it over. View this. If you wanted to, you actually could copy your other nodes and bring them down and change the size. But I find this easier because you have to change both of these. So, yeah. So now that I did that, Control C, Control V, pasting it here, subtract, and then we're just going to border again. Nice thin line, there we go. And for this one, I'm going to add a little bit of something extra to it. So I'm just going to grab another background, and I'm gonna grab a rectangle, connect it. I'm gonna break that connection, connect these two together, and just view these two pieces. And then this rectangle, I'm gonna bring the width in significantly and the height. Then I'm gonna move it, whoops. I'm gonna move it up here. I'm gonna zoom in, and I'm gonna try to get these thicknesses. So the thickness of this, the same as the thickness on here. I think that's close enough. We don't really need it to be perfect. Oops. Now that I have that there, after this background, duplicate tool again, and this one we're gonna do 25. 360, 25. Now I have this little guy going, and we're just going to connect this to here. Have this over here. I want to leave this merge and everything over here because I want that to be treated as one element itself. So then we'll view this now. And everything that we have going here. Why can't I see it? Oh, because I have another merge in here that doesn't have a background. There we go. And to make this a little easier to see, I'm just going to change the color of some of this stuff to make it a bit easier. And both of these are gonna go as white. There we go. The next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you another way to create these to actually save a little bit of time. So if I bring the background in and I bring down one of these ellipse tools, I'm going to connect it, and then I'm gonna grab this and I'm going to just copy from here. So the same way so far, I'm just gonna connect this up so I can see it with this. And over here, we're gonna bring this down so we're right inside and not touching. Now I'm going to Control C, Control V to paste it here, right? But for this one, for this height, I'm actually going to highlight both of these. So this is, so 5_1, the _1 was the copy of 5. What I'm actually gonna do is I'm going to grab an expression for here, and I'm gonna come into this one, so 5, and I'm gonna grab this height. So now they're the same. But here's something that's really cool with that, is if I take all of these, well, actually let's make that, I'm jumping ahead here. So let's go to subtract, and then bring it in just a little bit. Now, let's say I wanted to make another ring. If I was to copy all of this, right, paste it here, and connect this up, and now we're gonna view this guy here. And if I look at this current mask, we can see that this is powered by 5_2. And if we look down here, because we made a copy of this, this one is 5_2. So now this height control controls this one as well. So we don't have to make all of those duplicates. So now I can just go like that, and it's perfect. And if I want to add a little bit of extra in here, I could just drop this right here, automatically connect it, go to subtract, invert, bam, up here, width, like that, perfect. After it, duplicate, 7, 367, bam, done. Isn't that pretty cool? So it's as easy as that. Now let me see what that other color value that I used here. I'm just gonna grab this and then come back down here where we were working. I'm gonna just paste it in here. Now I have that same color right in there. So now the next one, we're gonna do something a little bit different. So I'm just going to grab these again, copy them, paste them down here, and you can see 5_3. So it's going to continuously change it, and all the values on my other nodes are going to be mapped to that one slider, which is a part of that new group. I guess you could call it a group. So in here, we bring this height down, holding control, get those fine-tune or fine adjustments. Now over here, we just have to make sure that we're playing this particular node. So now I'm playing it here. What I'm actually going to do for this one is I'm going to change this amount to that much. Okay. And I'm going to change the color to white. So let's do that. The other thing that I'm going to do is now here at the end, just an empty space, just clicking. And we're going to type in paint, and we're going to get the mask paint, and we're going to connect this. And now we're going to, in here, we're just going to click this to make a path, and we're going to try to get the center of this going all the way around. We can adjust this if we need to later. But for now, we want it to go all the way around. You click this button to finish the circle. Now that that's connected, on this one, since this one's the second one in, we can change the paint mode. We're going to change it to multiply. And what multiply does is that they have to overlap to be visible. As you can see, we got this wonky circle. So in this mask, we're going to come up to brush controls. I'm going to personally change it to this brush so we don't have that soft edge. And I'm going to increase the size so that the brush is actually larger than the ring that we have, so that when they overlap, it's a nice clean, crisp circle, right? So now you might say, okay, why did we do that? Here's the cool part. Because we can keyframe now. So let's come in. We're at 24 frames per second, so 1 second would be 24, obviously. We can come down here to stroke controls, and we have a right on, right? So we're gonna keyframe the end. We can come down to the beginning, and now we're gonna bring this in. And I don't know if you've seen that over here, but now, if I play this, it writes on. So that's the cool thing, because now we have this write on thing that we can add in. Okay, so now that we have all of this, I would say it's looking pretty good. These circles are a little bit big, so let me go over and change the circles. I believe it was this guy, possibly, or no, it was this one. So we're just going to change the size of those. Whoops, a little too small. I would say something like that is probably a little bit better. And I think we're looking good. We might want to do one more line inside. Yeah, I think I'm going to do one more line inside. I think I'm going to change this color as well. Come in here, copy. Actually, you know what? I think I'm just going to go to a to make maybe a blue, maybe a little less saturation. So something like that. Okay, so I said one more on the inside. So I'm just gonna copy this one that we have been copying. Whoa, I don't know why I pasted up there. Connect this up, take a view edit, and come over here. Change this size. Something like that. And I think I'm happy with that. I might just want to change the color. And I think I'm going to change the thickness as well. Make it a little thinner. Maybe even more thin. More thin? Thinner? Even thinner? I don't think more thin would be proper English. Okay, so now that I have that, let's, for all of this, add a background in as well. So we're going to get a background node. And I am just going to grab a blue. It's like there. I'm just going to connect from here to here so that all of this overlaps on top of this background. So that's what we're working with. And now I'm going to add another node over here. I'm going to grab that same color, come over here, paste it in, and I think I'm going to go less saturated for this. So maybe right there. And then I'm going to grab a rectangle, connect that up, and then after this background, I'm going to do a duplicate node, and then from the duplicate node, we're going to connect these two together like that. So this rectangle, I'm now going to do full height. Let's do the height one first. Whoops. And then I'm going to do like 0.1 and bring this all the way over to this edge. Then in copies, I'm going to do 25. I'm just making these numbers up, so it might look good, it might not look good. Let's see how it looks though. And now we're getting those lines going across. I think that looks good. And then I'm going to just take all this, copy, Control C, Control V to paste, connect this, what the hell? Connect this to here, and then connect that in. And then for this rectangle, we're going to go 0.001, and full width, and we're gonna recenter it and bring it to the top. Fit. Let's go up a little bit like that, and then here we're gonna reset it and pull it down. And I think that's looking pretty good. So now I have like a little bit of a grid going there. All right, so now that I have all of that, we pretty much have all of the building blocks to make this animation work. So next thing we have to do is we're going to make this into 3D. If you're not saving, it's probably a good idea to save now. So I just hit Control S, save. So now that I have everything pretty much made, I'm going to look over everything. So I have all of these merge nodes, and then I have all of these like little elements. So by themselves, they're pretty good standalone elements, and I want them to stay like that. There's a couple, there's like this one, that's the line, and then these little dashes. I want that with the merge here. So we're gonna take each one of these and make them their own elements. So then we can manipulate them in 3D space so that they're not all together. Because currently they're all 2D, we need to make them 3D objects. So all we're gonna do is I'm gonna come over here, and to zoom in and out, I don't know if I said this, but you just hold Control and mouse wheel. So mouse wheel in and out. And I'm going to grab a plane. I'm going to grab a camera. I'm going to grab a renderer. So now that we have all three of these elements, we just need to figure out how many of these image planes do we need for each element. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8, 9, because there's 2 here. So we need 9. So take this, copy, 1, so it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the reason why we did that so we don't have to do all those connections. And then we'll connect the camera into this merge as well, and then out of this merge we'll go into the renderer. Okay, so now we can just go through here and delete these, and then just connect these up. Take this, connect it in, connect it in. Let's get rid of these merges, delete those, delete all these, delete these. Okay, and then connect this over to here. And we'll connect this one onto here, this one onto here, this one to here, and then finally, as you can see, we have a merge and another merge. We're connecting all of that onto here. Now, we have everything connected into 3D space, and they're all their own little elements. So if we take this renderer and we play the renderer, we're not going to see anything. And I'll show you why. If we take this merge and we play it over here, we'll see all the elements, and we're going to close that media pool. So if you've never worked in three-dimensional space, there's a couple of controls that you're going to have to know. Scroll wheel in and out just goes up and down. If you hold Control scroll wheel, it zooms in and out. If you hold down mouse wheel, will move around like this. So middle mouse, you'll move around like this. If you hold Alt and middle mouse wheel, will spin around like this. Okay. So currently the reason why we don't see anything is because our camera is actually through the whole animation. So we'll just take our camera, we'll pull it back, and then we'll start to see everything. Once we pull it back far enough, we'll see everything. And now the next thing that we have a problem with is the camera. Because all of these are on the perfectly same, there's nothing between them, like it's a perfectly like thin thing. The camera thinks that everything is together, and it only really sees that background. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna push the background back so we can see all the elements. So the background, when we were working on the background, it was this bottom thing. So it's this bottom node here that's the background. So clicking on that, now you can see it went around the background, and we can just grab this little control here and push it back, and now we can see everything over here. Okay, so now that we see everything, now you can see that all of our elements are here, and then we have the plane back there. All right, so now the next thing we have to do is we have to bring this to life, and we need to make it like have all those movements. So there's a bunch of keyframing that's going to happen now. The biggest thing that I'm going to do next is, as you can see, there's not much space here to work with. So if we were to take the camera, right, and let's say we brought it in, but if we took the camera and we rotated it, come back over, bring it over, there would be, like, to get everything in there, like, you wouldn't, you know, there's always an edge that's showing. So we just need to make that background bigger. So to do that, this bottom one, we're just going to move it down because it's the background, and we'll just bring it over here. Out of this background, we're going to do a duplicate as well, but it's going to be a 3D duplicate. So 3D duplicate, and this one works a little bit differently. So we're going to do 2, because we only need 2 here, and I'm just going to move it down. So as you can see, we have this selected, and if we move this down, I don't know if you can see that, but we're kind of growing this. See that, the second one? So all we're going to do is just make this negative 0 or 0.5. So now we have them together down here. And if we're going to do the camera angle like the one that I did previously, what we're going to do with this image plane is we're actually going to pull it up, because we're going to swoop down to see everything. So if we look at it here, we're just pulling this up a little bit. So we kind of want the project to be in this corner over here. And we'll take this over here just a little bit, not much, because we still want it to sort of be in the middle. Okay, now that we have that done, we're not really going to play with the camera until later. Now we're going to just do the animations of all the different elements. So there's a couple of different ways that we can animate this. We can have them spin, and then we can also have them break out. To do that, because we have everything broken out, if we were to take one of these and move it, you would see that that particular piece moved, right? As you can see here, it moves. You can see it here, it moves. So we just have to neatly reposition them. The reason why I said neatly and joked about it is because this can be a pain in the butt when you're first starting out with 3D if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, so I'm going to just have it start. Just start out with no animations, because we have this like fill up thing, and I kind of want that to do its thing for a little bit, because my envisioning was that it's going to be straight on, and then as time progresses, it's going to lean to the side, and you're going to see it like explode out and do that 3D. So I'm going to bring the first element over here just to see which element this is, and this is just the ring. I'm not really going to move that ring much. And then this is the circles. So I think what I'm going to do with the circles is we're going to come to frame 1, keyframe here, and then I'm going to come all the way up, and then I'm just going to have it do like 1 circle. So throughout this, it's just going to be spinning. Okay. So now that we have that done, and is there anything else I would do with that? No, I think I just want that to no, let's have it like from frame 14, we're going to have it punch out a little bit. So frame 14, it hasn't done anything. And then from 14 to, let's go 28, it's going to just come out just ever so slightly. Just a little bit. Not much, just a little bit. Okay, and then let's go to the next element. What is this? This is the first set of lines here. So for this, where was this? 14 and 28. Okay. So for this, I'm gonna pretty much do the same thing here. 14. I'm going to change the position. 14 and we're gonna go with this one to 34 just to switch it up, make it a little dynamic. I'm gonna bring it out just a little bit. I would say something like that. Not a ton, but what I'm also gonna do is I'm going to change how these keyframes work. So currently we have that one highlighted. So I come over here, show only selected tool. This one's the only one selected, so we only see this keyframe. This can start to get a little hectic. That's why I bring that up, because we'll have a lot of keyframes in here. So the first thing I did, let me undo that. So the first thing I did is just highlight it here, and then I hit F to add a ease to this. And then if I hit T, it'll bring this ease in. So I'm just going to increase this a bit. So something like that. So it'll move out quick, and then it'll slow down to finish its move. I think that looks really nice. So then the next one, let's see what that is. Okay, that's these circles. That I think is gonna be consistently spinning. So I'm gonna start it here. I'm gonna bring it over here, and I'm gonna go to -180. So it'll spin the opposite way. And because these are so far apart, I don't need to add any easing to that. And then I think I'm gonna come to frame 14, and we're gonna keyframe that position, and let's go with 26. And 26, we are going to bring it out a little bit. Let's see where we're at with everything. Okay, they're stacking a little bit. So we did the circles, we did this line, and then we have this little guy. Okay, that's looking good. And we'll click this button because we have multiple sets of keyframes in here. We'll click this button, and we'll see these long ones, but we're only concerned with these two right here. So we'll click this. We'll just zoom in here. Click F, have that ease. All right. So the next thing we're gonna do is come down to the next one. What's the next one? Next one's just a circle, so we don't need to add any rotation here, but we're gonna come to frame 14 again, keyframe here, and then come up to 26. I'm just going to bring it up just a little bit. I'm holding Control to bring it up. Let's see them all again. How are we looking? I think we're looking pretty good. We got like a stacking effect going here. Okay, moving down to the next one, or actually, let's go back to that one. Right here. Click this button. Gonna add easing in here as well. All right. The next one are the circles. So I think it's, yeah. So we're just going to come over here, rotation, come to the other end, and in here I'm going to do 175. Real random numbers. And frame 14 to frame 28. And I'm just gonna bring it up. These numbers you don't have to, be exact with. You can pick whatever you want. It's completely up to you. Bring it up just a little bit more. Something like that. Okay. And then for this, easing and increase it. Perfect. Next one, just the circle. So we just need to have it punch out. So here, offset and 28. Gonna have it come out. Now we don't want it to come too far out because it'll, at least from this angle that we're looking at, it'll come out a little too much and overlap, but I think we're fine. I think we come out far enough, so something like that. Okay, and just one more. Actually, come back, add some easing in here. Actually, I'm gonna do it to both sides, so we have a little transition like that. Switch it up a little. 14, offset, 28, bam, and we're going to bring this out. like that. I think that looks kind of cool that it's in just a tad. Okay, hit this button, add easing to both sides, and we'll call it a day there. Now, that looks great and all, but there's a big hole right here in the middle. So let's fill that with the elements that we already have, with the animations that we already added. So all we're gonna do is just right here, just click Shift Spacebar, and we're gonna do a merge node, 3D merge this time, and we're gonna grab all of the elements that we want to have added in. And I think I would want to grab everything but these dots and this line. So we'll grab all of these except for that. And I think these top two are that, so we'll connect this over. This is why I love nodes, because you can just grab a source from anywhere, and there we go. Now that we have that, we can come over here and we can do scaling, and we can put 0.5, right? And now we can connect this into here, and we have it here. How cool is that? So the next thing that we can do is we can add to this animation a bit by a couple of different ways. One, we can come to this side, and we can add, let's come in a little bit so I can see that animation. So these right now look the same, right? So let's change that up a bit and have that like that. So like, you know, this line and that line that fill in are a bit off. So we'll start it there. So we'll just keyframe there, and then we'll come to the other side, and we'll just go by, not a ton, but just a little bit, 30 degrees. And then the other thing that we can do is adding to this animation. So most of this stuff was stopping at 34. So if I go like 26 and do a offset, and then come up to like 46 and pull all of this out, oh, a little too much, something like that. I think my scaling, I'm gonna do like 75. Okay, that's not enough. 0.6, 0.55. Okay, I think 5.5 looks good. So now if I look at this, it's starting to look, you know, a bit better. Starting to look pretty cool. And they all have like these different types of animations that they're all like poking at, which is kind of cool. And now, coming out of that, I can add a little bit more and do a duplicate 3D coming out of that. I have this at 2, but we need to change the scaling. So let's do like 0.5. Now we're really starting to fill this in. I think before I had 5.5. Yeah, and that looked nice. Okay. So now we're starting to really fill this in, and I just, I can change the, let's change the rotation on this to 80 degrees. So now we have like the little opening here, a little opening here, a little opening here. It's really starting to feel like, you know, there's a lot difference going on here, as you can see this guy. So we're gonna do the same sort of thing here, where was this last move? Way up here. So I would go like 30. I'm going to come over on here and have my offset and come up. Let's go to 48. And I can move this around a bit. Have this pump out, come out just like that. So now we're really starting to get something that looks pretty wild, right? So remember to save if you haven't saved yet. Now the next thing that we're gonna do is we can play around with the camera, because I feel like it's pretty full now and it's looking pretty good. Now the camera moves are the next big thing to do. So I'm going to zoom this out a little bit, and we are going to center this up a little bit so that we're right on there. That's looking pretty good to start. So maybe that's a good start point where it's all starting to come out and get created. And I think I'm going to just show this over here. So it's starting to come out, it's getting created, it's still all flat. So camera. I like to just keyframe everything because I don't know where I'm going to take this really, but we're going to come, let's come, so by here we already have a bunch of stuff moving, right? And so I'm going to bring it out, let's say something like that. And now we can just kind of manipulate this camera. Now we have to see this, but we can manipulate this camera to a position that we would actually like. So I can rotate it, maybe turn it a little bit, bring it up, something like this. Maybe bring it down over this way. So maybe that would be a good spot for a keyframe. And then I'm just going to take all of these keyframes, hit F just to ease them, and then maybe come in a little bit more. And we can continue with this path. Just be cautious, like when you're moving this around, that you don't see the edges. Like over here, if you would see this edge, it would have this background, and then this would all be black. So just something to keep in mind. So I'm thinking that something like this, maybe we can come out a little bit. Something like that maybe. And just ease all of that. And then the final thing to this secret sauce, if that's what we're calling it, would be depth of field. And this is where it's going to start to really tax your computer if it hasn't yet. If it has, or if you're just watching this and then you're going to do this later, one thing that you can do is all of these pieces that are beforehand, you can, if you're done with them, the ones that have the duplicate nodes, these duplicate nodes, they typically take a bit more resources. So you could just come to like a node like this, and you can go cache to disk, and then I would just do lock branch, and then what's going to happen is it'll render all of this, and then it'll make like a file that Fusion can play for whatever is down that branch of the node tree. So all of these won't ever be rendered in real time again. It'll just read whatever the file was that this made. So it'd be like it makes a video, I guess you could say, of everything that happened previous to that, and then it would go into everything else. So once you have our camera moves set and they're looking pretty good, we're sort of moving here. Oh, the other thing that you could do is you could right click in here and turn off high quality, and you could even turn on proxy. And what proxy will do is, depending on what your settings are in this Fusion, under view, no, general, here, it'll do a 30:1 compression. So yeah, if that's what you have it set on, it'll save a bit on resources. So now that I have this done, I'm going to come to my renderer and go to OpenGL renderer, And then this little drop down accumulation effects, we'll just enable that, and it's gonna look all crazy. You can boost the quality. The higher this goes, obviously, the more time it's gonna take to render, more resources. I'm just gonna put up to 25, and then I'm gonna reduce this amount of depth of field blur. I would say something like that is looking pretty good. And next, I wanna go to my camera. And in my camera, I'm gonna go over to the camera tab, control visibility. I'm gonna turn on this focal plane and then just turn up the divisions a bit. And now we can see this green box thing, and that's where my camera currently is focusing. So if I change the focal plane to where everything is in my project, you can see over here it's starting to be in focus. I'm just going to go like that so I can see where it's going. We bring it up. That is, oh geez, what am I doing? That is pretty close, and this is looking relatively sharp, so I'm happy with that. It is a little behind. Okay, perfect. So that's where I'm gonna leave that. So my nothing starts moving till here, so I'm just going to keyframe that location, and then I'm just gonna come to my couple of points, my location points, and just make sure that my focus is in a nice spot. So for here, it's a little back. I think I would want to bring it to things that are a bit forward. So I would say like right there. So added a keyframe there, and then coming to here, I think I kind of lucked out on this one, and we're in the back again. So we'll just come a little bit to the front. Something like that. I think that's looking good. If I come over here to my renderer, I can increase the blurry bits if I want to. So now this is starting to go out of focus, and I think I like that in that way. And then that's kind of it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick render this to disk, and then I'm going to preview it and see how we're looking so far. All right, so after a little bit of rendering, as you can see down here, everything has a little lock on it, and this has like a little hard drive symbol. So it's just reading off of that one node, the files that it created off the drive, and that's kind of what I came up with. I think the only thing I would change with this is I think the background's a little too light and you can't really see the lines. So I think that's the only like real thing I would change on here. It's just darkening that up. I might make the little inner one that pops out, like make it change the easing and how they work. So I would have start to move really slow, and then at the end ramp up to that end point, so it like punches out. But other than that, that's kind of how you would do it. And I mean, you could take this a step further if you really wanted to, and on the side here you could maybe the title to a series. But yeah, I think the only other thing that I could say is if you're working on a project like this, I know some machines are probably going to chug, is just work on just small segments. So like we had this whole intro, right? We have this whole intro. Maybe you just worked on the intro until you got that to look good, and then you moved on to another part so your computer can cache those different areas, and then you could just move these in and out points to wherever you wanted to have it loop, so you could only see that portion, right? And then you could just cache just that portion. So I could just cache here just this portion, or whatever portion that you want it, maybe right in the middle. And then you can just work on different segments if your computer is struggling to render this, because there are a couple of elements that could be a little difficult to render. So just wanted to give you a couple of those pointers, but I think that's pretty much it for this one. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think about this one. If you have any ideas or suggestions, leave them down there below. And with that said, my name's JR, and thanks for watching.